May I come in, sir?
Yes, please do.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'ams. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Please take a seat.
Thank you, sir.
You're Mr. Pushpendra Singh.
Yes, sir.
Pushpendra, you're comfortable with English as your preferred medium?
Yes, sir.
And you're fully vaccinated.
Yes, sir.
In that case, please remove your mask. Comfortable?
Yes, sir.
Fine, Pushpendra. Pushpendra, I would like to inform my fellow board members that Pushpendra is basically from Uttar Pradesh.
Yes, sir.
I can also see that you did your graduation in computer science engineering
Yes, sir.
a decade ago, right? And you have taken geology and forestry as your optional.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you would like to add to it?
Sir, specifically, I'm from a district named Kanpur, Dehat. And for the past 8 years, I was working in Oil and Natural Gas Corporation for a few days short of 8 years. I resigned last year and I'm preparing fully for a year now, sir.
You worked in ONGC, which is one of the best employers this country has got, for 8 years.
Yeah, close to 8 years, sir.
And then you left the job.
I resigned, sir.
You resigned.
Yes, sir, of my own volition, sir.
Why?
Sir, specifically for civil services, and
You are 32 years old.
I am, sir, yes.
So, I mean, there has to be some a huge push from the place you were working. It cannot be merely attraction toward another service.
There were some pushes, I would say, but majorly I think it's because I would like to do something, or I would like to have a career in something that I would love doing for the rest of my career, sir. I still have about 30 years left, so a career in forest would be something that I can look forward to. It would be an office that I would love going to in the mornings. Oil and natural gas is
Are very important for our development. We need them. We all know this from decades. But the matter of the fact is, these activities are the biggest enemy of environment.
Sir, these activities by themselves are not the biggest enemies. It's the way we're doing it. It's the way we're taking shortcuts. For example, certain times there are oil spills. They could have been avoided. There are blowouts which lead to destruction of the environment. They could have been avoided had we put more money into the process.
Even if these are done in the most prudent manner, when they come out of the place they are,
Sir,
they'll be used for pollution only. The best place for these things are to leave them where they are.
Sir, but then how would we get
That's
our
again
energy,
the
sir?
development theory. Forest service is not the place for it. Engineering is.
Yes, sir.
So why do you want to become a forest service officer?
Sir, it's never too late to change. And also, I feel that forest could be something where it truly excites me. The prospect of working in far off areas, working in forests. And I don't think there can be a better office than forest, sir. So that is why I think that for the rest of my years, sir, forest can be a good career for me, sir.
Anyways, thank you. So,
Pushpendra, you are a student of geology.
Yes, sir.
What is this GeoPIC?
Sir, it stands for Geological Processing and Interpretation Center.
Nothing related to the hammer which a geologist use?
It's an acronym for Geological Data Processing and Interpretation Center, sir.
What is geological hammer? It is also called GeoPIC.
Yes, sir. But I think that the PIC there is spelled PICK.
PICK, yeah.
This GeoPIC is PIC. It's,
Okay, fine. What is the rock type of Himalayas?
Sir, the lesser Himalayas and the outer Himalayas are made up of shale and sandstone. The inner Himalayas or the greater Himalayas are made up of granite and gneiss.
Okay. And as far as the classification of the rock is concerned, is it igneous or metamorphic? What exactly is that?
Sir, the former ones are sedimentary, the shale and sandstone ones. The granite and gneiss. Granite is an igneous rock. Gneiss is a metamorphic rock, sir.
Okay. You have won CMD Innovation Award in ONGC. Is that so?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do you think are the factors of organizational creativity?
Sir, I think free time is most important for creativity. If there are, for example, in any job, there are mundane tasks which take up most of the time. But if a person has some time on his hands, a pertinent example could be my own example. My work profile is of user support. I usually get calls whenever geologists or geophysicists are facing problem with their workstations. But most of the time I'm free, so I utilize that of my own volition.
Anything else?
Sir, the culture of the organization would be an important consideration, sir, in this.
So this is what I am asking actually. What are the factors of that culture which promotes innovation? Okay, fine. I come to the next question. What do you understand by resilience?
Sir, in context of geology?
In context of leadership role?
Resilience is not backing down in face of adversity, sir. It's tenacity. Another synonym could be tenacity. It's perseverance.
Fine, good. Okay, I give you a situation. You are a DFO, District Forest Officer, and the minister comes and says that you have to buy this biofertilizer worth 5 lakhs of rupees and you have to do it immediately. So what will you do?
Sir, I wouldn't succumb to the pressure.
You'll be giving the supporting documents as well.
Sir, again, the due process must be followed. Nobody should be given preference over this process. I would look into the document. The open tender process are always there in any such buying. So I would go through that. If there is undue pressure, I would try to avoid it. I would try to suggest the minister that such and such thing would not be possible. His agency or his institution can come through the proper channels. And if and of course there are boards in any such situation or committees or councils which look into the various bidding that are there. If the minister's proposition is found to be the best, it will get selected, sir.
Thank you.
Pushpendra,
Ma'am.
you have studied forestry.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you name some medicinal plants which we get from forests?
Ma'am, almost every tree has some or the other medicinal property. The ones that I have seen being used would be neem. Neem has medicinal properties. Even sesame, Dalbergia sisu, has medicinal properties. We also see eucalyptus having some medicinal properties. There's a tree called bale that also has medicinal properties. Figs, Ficus religiosa, Ficus bengalensis. These are people and bargad respectively. Even they have medicinal properties. Other than this, ma'am, there are shrubs such as tulsi which have medicinal properties. Opiates come from cannabinoids. These are again shrubs and herbs which have medicinal properties.
Very right. Have you heard about TKLD?
Yes, ma'am. Traditional knowledge library, I suppose.
Yes, it is. Okay, you are from Uttar Pradesh.
Yes,
how many protected areas are there?
ma'am, there's one national park, 3 wildlife sanctuaries, and quite a lot of wetlands. Among them, 10 are recognized as Ramsar wetlands.
So, UP is such a big state and only one national park.
Yes, ma'am.
So, is it a thing to be proud of, or is it something we should think about?
Ma'am, certainly this is an ecological issue. Only 6% of the area is under forests, including if we include the tree cover, about 9% of it is under forests. My district, Kanpur Dehat, is even more abysmal in this statistic. Only about 1.36% of the land is under forest. But being a predominantly, because it's all fertile alluvium and it's plain throughout. So this is being mostly utilized for agriculture, but I still suppose there are avenues for community plantations, for social forestry, agroforestry, farm forestry, extension forestry, plantation along canals, reclamation of ravines, etc., urban forestry, wherein we can improve the forest percentage of the state, ma'am.
So what is the percentage that is required by general consensus? How much forest do we should have?
Ma'am, the National Forest Policy of 1952 says that we should have 60% of forests in hilly areas and 20% of forests in plains. The 1988 forest policy, the updated forest policy, which we are following right now, has increased the amount of forest percentage to 66 in hilly areas.
Okay. So you read?
I do, ma'am.
So what books do you read? What kind of books?
I invariably end up reading history, ma'am.
Okay. Give me some example.
Ma'am, the last book I read is called The Great Arc. It's a story of a trigonometrical survey of the country that was done in the 19th century. It took almost a century to be completed. The country was measured with a microscopic precision, and the heights of various peaks, for example, Mount Everest, etc., were deduced from that survey, ma'am. Even the names came from that
Other
survey.
books that you have read?
It was a book about the various summits of mountains in the Himalayas.
Okay.
I've also read one of my favorite books would be The Wonder That Was India by Mr. A.L. Basham. There's another book, The Men Who Ruled India. This is a subaltern history of the colonial times.
Okay. Thank you, Pushpendra.
Thank you.
Good morning, Pushpendra. What are microplastics? How do we define them?
Ma'am, plastics, when they break down, they get into very small pieces. Pieces that are less than 1 millimeter are often termed as microplastics.
1 millimeter, 5 millimeter.
Ma'am, you're right. It's 5 millimeters.
Okay. And what are microbeads?
Microbeads are often utilized in cosmetics and certain other scrubbing agents. These are.
And why these two are very important in connection to marine pollution, marine ecosystem? What kind of effect they have?
These they eventually get into water bodies and eventually into the oceans. And these are plastics, and they have a lifetime running into thousands of years. So these are often ingested by marine animals, and this leads to their death, ma'am.
Death or fertility? How do what's the main concern?
I think both these should be our main concern, ma'am.
Okay. So what do you understand by blue carbon?
Ma'am, blue carbon is the carbon in aquatic ecosystems.
Aquatic?
Riverine as well as riverine, lacustrine, and even coastal ecosystems.
Coastal also? Okay. So how do we increase it then? If I ask you in context of India, which all regions would you want blue carbon to be promoted? Which type of cultivation can we do?
Ma'am, we have so many rivers. Areas beside these rivers, wetlands are prominent candidates. We have lakes as well.
But they are running to their full capacity, don't you think? Especially when it comes to eutrophication is happening in wetlands, rivers, and so I think oceans should be used more.
Ma'am, eutrophication is definitely a problem, but that shouldn't deter us from utilizing the lakes and rivers or beautifying them or afforest them.
I'm saying already we have primary producers in excess in the inland water system. So getting more of it.
Ma'am, these are what we call invasive species. So if we can have some local species in these water ecosystems, that would be even more beneficial. But you're right in pointing out that coastal areas can very well be utilized.
Do you think eutrophication only is connected to invasive species?
Ma'am,
it leads to development of only invasive species.
Ma'am, what eutrophication does is that it gives more advantage to the invasive species. So they usually outnumber the indigenous species in any water body.
Okay. And which convention do you think in current scenario is working, international convention in context of climate change and environment?
Ma'am, under the UNEP, there is a UNFCCC, United Nations Framework on Climate Change Convention.
So what are its three achievements?
Ma'am, under this, there have been many pacts. For example, the Kyoto Protocol was there. Then the Paris
I'm just
Agreement was there.
asking in case of where we can measure, okay, this was achieved.
Ma'am, the renewables, the proportion of renewables in our energy basket has increased. Every country is proposing a nationally determined contributions towards fighting climate change. That is a big step. Phasing down coal is a big step that the Glasgow summit has done. Other than this, I would say the awareness among the people about environment, the mobilization of finances, the various other organizations that it has led to.
My last question to you, which is the largest fund related to climate change, which is currently existing?
Ma'am, the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, is supposed to be the largest one, but it doesn't see much finances flowing into it. So GEF, the Global Environment Facility, should still be the largest in, as far as I'm aware of, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Pushpendra, how much oil does India import?
Ma'am, about 5 million barrels a day.
And what percentage of the total requirement does it produce?
Ma'am, it varies to a little extent, but about 15% is produced indigenously.
Okay. And our import bill for oil has been increasing year after year. What are the reasons why our production is continuously falling?
Ma'am, most of our fields are aging. The new fields that we are finding are marginal fields. The enhanced oil recovery has stagnated. It is not economically viable anymore. The unconventional hydrocarbon, we do not have the technology, first of all, and they are very finance intensive. We do not have the capital to invest in them. Other than that, ma'am, the global prices have increased persistently in the last decade.
But we are increasing the import with respect to volume also, not just the prices, right?
Yes, ma'am. Because, ma'am, the demand is also increasing with the...
Okay, that was good. Can you tell me what is E20 with respect to ethanol blending?
E20 is gasoline blended with 20% ethanol. This is the target. Right now we are blending about 10%. But eventually, and by the mission says that by 2025, we should be blending about 20% ethanol in.
Why
petrol.
did we come to this idea of blending ethanol with our fossil fuels? What was the concept behind it?
First of all, because we are dependent on fossil fuels on other countries, it's a strategic resource. The import bill has always has been increasing. It's a burden on our foreign exchange reserves. Other than that, ma'am, these are the ones I can remember, ma'am.
Only economic aspect behind ethanol blending? It's called biofuel for some reason.
Yes, there are quite a lot many, ma'am. I'm sorry, I forgot about all of them. The other one would be that we do have a lot of biomass that goes as waste. One would be the spoiled grains, or the...
What are the sources of ethanol?
Ma'am, spoiled grains, as of now, the country is trying to utilize sugarcane to produce more ethanol.
There are particular crops only from which we can extract ethanol, right?
Yes.
Not the entire spoiled grains would serve as sources of ethanol.
Ma'am, I'm not particularly aware of, but wheat is often utilized for conversion to ethanol.
Okay.
Because we have reserves, extra reserves for it.
Okay. So was environment idea behind this ethanol blending, preserving environment or protecting environment, was one of the reasons? But you understand that while we are producing crops which would help us to have these biofuels, we are actually diverting our land usage, and that is another problem of climate change, of carbon generation. So don't you think that we are actually going in a vicious cycle? We are only making up terms like biofuels. It is not actually serving any purpose of protection of environment.
Ma'am, biofuels are carbon neutral.
Biofuels themselves are carbon neutral, I understand, but there would be land use diversification or land use change, pattern change, no? Land which was a forest or maybe grassland would be converted into an agricultural land to have these crops. So don't you think that we are not actually serving any purpose?
Ma'am, I would argue that these are all intermediate solutions. The eventual solution is to move to renewables, but we do need a bridge fuel in the meantime, and these the biofuels can serve as a bridge fuel.
Okay. My last question to you: what do you understand by judicial accountability?
Ma'am, under our constitution, we have separation of powers. And by judicial accountability, we mean that the judiciary is accountable to the other two pillars of the democracy, the legislature as well as the executive.
Is any provision is there in our constitution to ensure judicial accountability?
Ma'am, the impeachment procedure is there. The appointment of judges is by the executive.
Okay, anyway, thank you, Pushpendra.
Pushpendra, you have worked for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
Can you recall a decision which you believe was procedurally incorrect, but the decision was good, and a decision was bad, but it was procedurally correct? Your decisions.
Sir, so ONGC often gives projects to research institutions, and historically we have never received a product that worked. And everybody in the organization knows about this. We give these projects under duress. We are supposed to be giving them projects. So I was associated with one such project. So I realized from the beginning itself that the software that they are going to give us would not be working. correctly, or it won't be working altogether. So in that particular case, I went through, I could have went through the proper channels in telling the organization, especially the higher echelons of the organization, that such and such thing is there and we can take preemptive measures. I did go to some of the higher persons. They asked me to not take it up further. So at that point, I should have taken it further and I didn't. So this is one thing that I do regret, and I hope I would be able to change this in my next assignment, sir. And as to the other part of the question, sir, this was the procedurally incorrect one, sir. For the other part, sir, I don't think I can.
So you took a procedurally incorrect bad decision. So that was bad on both counts. I was expecting it will be bad only on one count.
Sir, in my perception, it was good. The intent was good.
But no decision was taken, so it was a bad decision.
It was a bad decision in the process, sir. Right, sir.
Anyways, nice talking to you, Pushpendra. Your interview is over. You can go now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. May I come in, sir?
Aye. Take your seat, Pushpendra.
Thank you, sir.
So, Pushpendra, your interview is on 17th.
Yes, sir.
You have 3-4 days.
Yes, sir.
Is it going to be your first interview at the UPSC?
No, sir. I gave the forest interview last year as well, sir.
Forest?
Yes, sir.
And what was your score?
180, sir.
180 out of 300.
Yes, sir.
And you missed by how many marks?
70, sir.
70?
Yes, sir.
That's too much.
I did very badly in the mains, sir.
And what is your assessment this time about your mains?
I should be doing very well, sir, this time. I've skipped the civil services, given the whole 4 months to forest services.
And you are happy with your performance today, or there are areas you would like to improve?
So there are many areas where I should be improving, sir.
Like?
Some of the questions I could have shown more presence of mind. In one question, I totally forgot what the question was. I should be more ready to answer question as to why I left Oil and Natural Gas Corporation and I want to go into forest services. I think I was not able to answer most of your questions, sir.
See, Pushpendra, I hope you already realize it and you have already faced that music earlier, so you know what they'll be expecting. Overall, you're a very good candidate. And you carry a personality which, I mean, by any measure, the board will be knowing from the first minute that, okay, you already have these traits, right? So the conversation thereafter will only be about assessing above average kind of the traits. I mean, the moment you enter the room and you start your conversation, the board know that yes, there's a candidate which is above average, and let's figure out how much above average the thing is. Rest is obviously at your performance. So overall, as I said, you look good, the way you enter is good, the way you sit is good, voice level is generally very good. I'll be coming to the non-verbal communication aspects of a little, but overall your communication, especially the verbal communication, is good.
Sure.
On the non-verbal communication parameters, you're coming from, it's a PSU, but still kind of a corporate culture. And that reflects, most of the time it reflects well, but there are a few places where probably a little bit, being a little bit careful will be helpful. For example, the way you remove your mask. You almost removed it as if you're removing a garland rather than a mask,
yeah, yes.
right? There can be a better way of doing it. Similarly, there is a lot of, but there is some neck movement, right? And actually you lean towards the member when you talk to them. So these are the non-verbal communication parameters. In other words, what I'm saying is that you can reduce your body movement a bit. Look at the video carefully, you'll realize yes. why I'm referring it. Not that it is, right now it is not obstructing any communication, right? But not doing it will make it a little better, more effective, more formal.
Definitely.
Right. So that is one thing. You need not have a very detailed discussion about it, because the moment you look at the video, you'll realize what I'm referring
yes.
to. But primarily it is a little bit of a body movement, which I'll suggest you can change a bit.
Sir, I've been suggested that I should bend a little bit towards the person asking the question. It shows attentiveness.
Attentiveness is primarily the function of eyes, right? Looking is definitely necessary, but turning is not, right? If you look at the video, you'll realize that then when you were looking at the ma'am, you were actually like this. You were moving your shoulder, and look at the video carefully. You're a smart candidate. You look what I'm referring to.
Sir.
Other things in general, you're handling very, very. Yes, there were few areas where you could have scored another 5 marks extra by showing a little bit more presence of mind. For example, the last question, but overall it was good. Otherwise, overall you're doing very good. So you don't have to change much on the content front. Yes, since you still have 2-3 days or whatever, revise a few areas. That will definitely be helpful. But even if you face interview tomorrow, you're almost ready. So I don't see any other change that you need to do. I'm sure you'll do very good. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.